It was another fun night of NBA playoff basketball with the Minnesota Timberwolves defeating the Los Angeles Lakers and Anthony Edwards being the best player on the court down the stretch of that game. We also saw the Milwaukee Bucks get a much-needed victory over the Indiana Pacers and the Orlando Magic showing signs of life and making some adjustments and getting a win over the Boston Celtics. We're going to talk about all three games and more right after this.
Welcome to the number one place for your daily basketball news and analysis, NBA Central.
What's going on, basketball fans? Welcome to another episode of NBA Central, your number one spot for everything basketball related. I'm the host, there, Hayes, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at NBA Central Pod on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that said, let's go and get into this content for today, y'all. And yeah, this was a game, man. This was a night of really fun basketball. And the game I'm going to start off with is actually the last game on the night, the game that I had the most fun watching, and that was the Los Angeles Lakers against the Minnesota Timberwolves, where the Timberwolves won this game 116-104. This was a game in which the Timberwolves went on a couple of big stretches down the stretch of this game. You look at what they did in the fourth quarter, and they really created some separation. This game was tied with about 4.5 minutes left in this game. And the Minnesota Timberwolves did enough and made the right decision. They went on a 14-9 run at the beginning of the fourth quarter that put them up 197 over the Los Angeles Lakers. But then the Lakers went on a 10-3 run themselves that tied the game 103-103. That was 4 minutes and 29 seconds left in that game at that point in time when the game was tied. Then the Timberwolves just went on a run 13-1 down the stretch of this game in the fourth quarter. From the 14-minute and 19-second mark to the end of the game, they ended up getting this victory, 12 points over the Lakers. And the Minnesota Timberwolves have had two major big wins against the Los Angeles Lakers in this series. And now, going into Game 4, which I believe is going to be on Sunday, it's a must-win game for the Lakers. If the Minnesota Timberwolves win this game on Sunday and go up 3-1 on the Lakers before the series heads back to L.A., oh, man, I think at that point the Minnesota Timberwolves would have all the momentum to be able to do what they need to do to win this series. This was a game where Anthony Edwards, while he missed on some drives down the stretch of this game, right, and, it wasn't a perfect game for him, he had 8 assists, 8 rebounds, 2 steals, 1 block, 29 points. And in the fourth quarter of this game, that's where Anthony Edwards really stood out the most and did what needed to be done, man. And despite LeBron, especially in that third quarter, really stepping up for that Lakers team, this was a game in which Luka Doncic wasn't fully healthy. He was dealing with the illness. Austin Reeves puts up some big points, but in the fourth quarter goes 0 of 2 from the field. And then you look at what the Minnesota Timberwolves did. Ant going 3 of 6 from the field. You also get big contributions in this game overall. Jaden McDaniels gets 30 points. Julius Randle gets 22 points in this game. You get 25 points total off the bench, 11 from Naz Reid, 10 from Dante DiVincenzo, who, by the way, Dante got away with calling a ref a bitch in this game and didn't get called for nothing. Shout out to Dante in that case. But you know what this game really was, too, is it was the physicality of the Minnesota Timberwolves, right? And them imposing their will on the Lakers in this game. And it took on the identity of Anthony Edwards, who over the course of the season, Ant has really stepped up big time as a leader for this Minnesota Timberwolves team. And it's really good to see him have the kind of breakout that he's had in that case, is really stepping up as a leader, right? And that's major to see. In this game, 38 points from LeBron, who still shows that he's superhuman with 38 points, 10 rebounds, 4 assists, 2 steals, 2 blocks. He plays amazingly in this game. Luka, who was sick, dealing with some major illnesses, 6 of 16 in this game. Austin Reeves goes 7 of 18 for 20 points, but that really, he didn't step up the most when it was needed, kind of when LeBron just needed some help. And other than that, you don't have another single double-digit scorer in this game at all, right? And it's going to be hard for the Lakers to win like that when you have players, that aren't really scoring in that way. So I think overall, like, the Lakers, they head into what really is a must-win game. It is a must-win game for the Lakers in Game 4 against the Minnesota Timberwolves. If the Wolves win on their home court on Sunday and go up 3-1, I just don't know if the Lakers are going to be able to regain that momentum, especially with the way that Anthony Edwards has been playing in this series, which has been a revelation in a lot of ways. So we'll see, man. Overall, with Luka being sick, you take that for what it is, right, in this game. And the Lakers are going to have to go back to the drawing board, and J.J. Redick is going to have to get this team motivated, because This Timberwolves team is playing with energy. It's playing with poise. It's doing it defensively. You're getting big, games from Julius Randle over the course of this series. And listen, it hasn't been perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but it's been effective. And that's what the thing has been. And the key has been here for this Minnesota Timberwolves team in this playoff series so far. But we'll see what they can do. Going to the next game, the Bucks get a much-needed win against this Indiana Pacers team to avoid going down 3-0. This was a game which, they made the adjustment in this game of starting Gary Trent Jr., getting Taurean Prince out of the starting lineup. He only plays 3 minutes in this game. Only 3 minutes in this game. And Gary Trent Jr. responds to that, going 11 of 16 from the field, 9 of 12 from three-point range. He scores 37 points to go along with Giannis's 37 points. They combined for 74 points in this game, and they were the biggest two scorers in this. You also got 12 points from A.J. Green, 10 points from Bobby Portis as well, who played some really good defense in this game. But this really pushed the Milwaukee Bucks to be able to win this game, man. They go 15 of 41 from three-point range for 36%. They out-rebound them by 8. And despite the Indiana Pacers, who are an amazing offensive team, make no mistake about it, you only get 5 of 11 from Tyrese Haliburton for 14 points and 10 assists, 7 rebounds from him. You get 28 points from Pascal Siakam. But this was a game where the Bucks really felt like they figured something out. And making that change in the starting lineup for them was really the biggest thing, the story in this game, is that they made that change in that starting lineup, and that gave Giannis the help that they need. Now, I'm not saying that they've necessarily uncovered anything that's going to be repeatable for them, but Gary Trent Jr., who said this after the game, my mindset was to just come in and get a win. And so that he played that way. You need players to step up like that when you're trying to win a series and trying to get back the momentum, and that was important. Doc Rivers even admitted, after the game that Dame Lillard is running on fumes out there, and you kind of feel that, right? Like Dame has not looked like Dame. It's good to have him out on the court. Him being able to make the comeback was basically unprecedented from a blood clot, and shout out to Dame for being able to get that done. But he was 2 of 12 from the field, and they're really going to need Dame to really step up. Now, they still plus 16 in his minutes out there, but you need more from Dame. And when and if you get that can really help you start matching some more with the Indiana Pacers team. But like I said, luckily they got the win, and that's the most important thing. They got this win, and he's still finding his rhythm. All those things are coming along. He said this after the game. I'm sorry, that was from Gary Trent Jr. That was just my focus. But hey, it is what it is. When you have somebody like Gary Trent Jr. stepping up to relieve Damian Lillard of some of that scoring responsibility that he has, that's really good. And the playoffs are it's about adjustments in the playoffs. That's really what it comes down to a lot of times in these playoff series. It really comes down to who can make the adjustments, the needed adjustments, to try to find different things to give your team a chance and an opportunity. And that's really what they did in this game, man, with the Milwaukee Bucks. They go on several big runs in this game. You look at the fourth quarter from them, they went on an 18-6 run around the 7-minute mark of the fourth quarter, right? So they were plus 12 in that time period. And that's really what helped them create that separation in that game. Going into that, they were still up by 10, but at the end of that run, they were up 113-91. That's really what put them away in this. Before that, the Pacers still showed some life, but between that and the 37-16 run to end the third quarter, that's really what really made the difference, is that the Bucks were able to go on runs, and the Indiana Pacers really didn't have any kind of meaningful answers to that. And the Bucks really grabbed that away in that second half of that game. And this was the Bucks' best game of the postseason. Now they just got to try to figure a way to replicate it, right? You're now down 2-1 to the Indiana Pacers, and you want to avoid going down 3-1. That's the key in a lot of these series, is avoid going down 3-1. And they got another game at home, so they got some home cooking to try to be able to get that done, and we'll see if they can. But overall, shout out to the Milwaukee Bucks for getting the victory here over the Indiana Pacers, and they just got to figure some things out. Not a big game from Benedict Mathurin coming off the bench for them. I already talked about Tyrese Haliburton. It was really Aaron Naismith and Pascal Siakam that really tried to keep that team afloat. Obi Toppin also had 10 points off the bench, but they're going to have to figure something out if they're going to want to keep this going. And Doc Rivers, a coach that I don't always trust, right? He made some really good adjustments in this game, and that change to the starting lineup could be something that really maybe helps them find a little bit more success. But I think the words from Giannis Antetokounmpo at the end of this game are really perfect. He said this: "We have to stay humble. It's just one game." And it is just one game. And they got to figure out what they're going to do to win more than just one game in this series. And we'll see what happens. The last game of the night tonight was the Orlando Magic getting a 95-93 victory over the Boston Celtics. And this just came down to the Orlando Magic played a better second half of basketball. Paolo and Franz, having the output in the scoring that they did was, of course, major, right? Paolo continued to just step up so much as the leader of that team and does what that team needs. But you had 32 points from Franz, 29 points from Paolo Banchero in this game. And so they combined for 61 points. You need every bit of that because the only other double-digit scorer they had tonight was Wendell Carter, who had 10 points and 12 rebounds. But this game wasn't just about the scoring. The Orlando Magic were able to make the Boston Celtics play their game today. The Celtics, who only had 9 3-pointers made, they were 9 of 27, and we know how they like to play the math game, right? And as far as how they win with the 3-pointers made, and the Orlando Magic took that away from them. They closed out on them really well. They forced them to take shots that they don't usually take. And this was a game that, it's not hyperbole. The Orlando Magic forced their defensive will upon the Boston Celtics in this game, and it's good for them to get one. It's not going to change my outlook on the series and how I see the series going, but one thing it does do is that this Orlando Magic team that isn't whole, right? Now, neither were the Boston Celtics in this game either, right? You're missing Drew Holiday in this one. Jason Tatum returns back from injury. He scores 36 points in this game. But this was a game where it really felt like the Orlando Magic played their game. And that was the first time this series where it really, really felt like that, right? And so, you get Corey Joseph, who's starting in place of Jalen Suggs. You get plus 15 from Cole Anthony in this game as well, but he only scored 4 points. So it was Paolo and Franz doing most of the heavy lifting. I know it doesn't sound, that's a lot to combine for 61 points, but when your team only scores 95 points, look, you're accounting for two-thirds of your team's points for just 2 players, right? And so the Boston Celtics are going to go back to the drawing board. They're going to try to figure it out, right, and get back in rhythm and things like that. But, if Drew Holiday is going to miss any more time with that hamstring sprain, that gives the Orlando Magic a time to try to find some rhythm themselves in this playoff series. Will they be able to do it? We'll see. But, overall, this was a fun night of basketball. And, all these games had their own entertainment and enjoyment in it as well. And I think you're just looking at a game like for this one with the Orlando Magic. There were 43 personal fouls called in this game, right? That's how physical the refs are allowing these playoffs to be so far this year, right? Now, we can't assume that it's going to continue like that, but for what it's worth right now, like they are letting these teams play, right? They're letting them get into it. And, as long as it's not dirty and things, it doesn't seem like it's going to stop at all when it comes down to that. Like the physicality of this playoff series for an old man like I am is kind of, harping back to some of the playoff series of old, and really appreciate being able to see that. But let me know what you guys think about the games that happened tonight and how you guys feel about it. Now, looking forward to tomorrow. We got 4 games on the docket tomorrow. Of course, we got the Miami Heat against the Cleveland Cavaliers. The Heat are down 2-0 in that series. Can they steal a game while they're at home in Miami? We'll see what happens there. The Cavs are just a buzzsaw. It was going to be difficult against any team to come up against them in the first round, and I would probably pick no matter who was going to come out that playing to get swept. But can the Miami Heat get a game in here, right? And that's going to be one of the big things if they can, because listen, the Miami Heat, while they aren't the best team, right? They have some serious big flaws, especially up against a team like the Cleveland Cavaliers. But Davion Mitchell and the story that he's had so far, right? Him buying into Heat culture, being big in that game against the Atlanta Hawks in that final playing game, right? And all those type of things. And Davion Mitchell saying this, I wasn't shocked. I mean, just because I knew how Heat culture was. I knew they played extremely hard, and that's what I'm known for. That's the reason why I'm in the NBA. I play extremely hard on both ends of the floor, so I knew I was going to fit right in. I just had to learn my teammates, get a chemistry here, get a chemistry with Spo. What does he like? I just thrive right in. And Davion Mitchell has been, like, if you're looking for any bright spot for a team that could get swept, it's Davion Mitchell. He's having a really great playoff series, and it's really good to see him step up in the way that he has. And, we'll see how that story ends. You also got the Thunder versus the Memphis Grizzlies. They're down 3-0. We don't know what's going on with they already announced that John Morant is not going to be playing in Game 4. I think that's going to be a sweep as well. You might as well count that one out. We'll see what happens there. But, OKC's up 3-0 in that series. Then you got the Nuggets and Clippers. That's the closest series so far. The Clippers are up 2-1. This is nearly a must-win game for the Denver Nuggets. You do not want to go down 3-1. Now, the Nuggets have come back from down 3-1 before in series. That was a team that had a little bit deeper bench depth. So you don't want to play with fate if you can avoid that one, but that's going to be a game to watch. And then, of course, my favorite series so far, the Houston Rockets versus the Golden State Warriors. They're going to go back to Golden State now on this one. It's tied 1-1, and I really do think this is going to be a huge game. Can the Houston Rockets do what they did last game, especially with Jimmy Butler and his injury? This is a time for the Houston Rockets to gain some momentum, play their defensive game, get in the head of the Golden State Warriors. If they can do that, it's going to be a fun one. But that's my thought process. You guys can let me know how you feel on everything down below. Make sure you're following us at NBA Central Pod. You send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, NBA Central Show at gmail.com. And then lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-270-2799. We're the number one spot for everything basketball related, but that's thanks to you, lovely and beautiful people. And I'll see you guys the next time I feel like making a video. Probably tomorrow. Peace, y'all.
This has been a presentation of the Breaks Media.